Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. We have got our sun sign compatibility here on this video. Gemini are the people born from May 21st through to June 20th. You'd be a Gemini sun. Gemini is a zodiac sign ruled by Mercury, and I always think of a flock of birds chirping at each other and talking to each other. Gemini energy is really busy. We've got Mercury, which orbits the sun in 88 days. That's the year. That's a year for Mercury, right? It's very quick. So Mercury types, whether it's a Gemini or it's a Virgo, they have a nervous energy to them and a busyness. Gemini applies it a little bit more to the mind, but Virgo does too. But it's communication. It's this sort of extroversion of this busyness. So a Gemini will, when they text you, or anyone who has a lot of Gemini in their chart, it's like long texts, or they'll keep in touch with you, or they really need communication from their partner. They need that kind of contact. That's what they're good at. Also, Geminis, they need to be moving. They love to try new things. They always have new ideas. They're quite bubbly and refreshing, and they can change their minds a lot and change their life direction a lot because they almost have too many ideas and too many things going on. They can also be a little bit fidgety, mentally and physically, a little ADD. It's kind of a Mercury trait. Our high-functioning Geminis, we have someone who's easy and breezy. They've got a cheerfulness, a versatility to them. They're good at multitasking. They're rational for the most part. There are other things to look at in the chart that will suggest otherwise, but they're open to new experiences. They're spontaneous and fun, and they've got a good sense of humor, conversationalists. They're just kind of happy, happy-go-lucky. That's very Gemini. If you're pure Gemini, they don't wade too much in those deeper waters of deep emotion and existentialist feeling or thought. A low-functioning Gemini, on the low side, they can be overly loquacious, right? They can text you too much. They can maybe not recognize when it's time to just we don't have to be talking the whole time. We can sit in silence. Remember, you need to look at the person's moon sign, their Mercury, and other things in their chart and see where that sun is actually placed, which house it's placed in. That's going to adjust this because Gemini is mutable, so it's quite overridable by other signs that are in the birth chart, okay? But for the most part, they're talkative. And if they're not extroverted with their talkativeness, then it's happening inside of them, okay? So they're going to analyze everything, and they're going to have a lot going on inside of them. So it's almost like the quiet Gemini is the one you really need to worry about because there's even more going on inside of them than the one that's extroverting it. All right, they have an anxiety to them. They can be flirty, not really anything necessarily meant by it, but they are quite flirty with the opposite sex. It can be hard to pin down. They can have problems with commitment. They can have like a Peter Pan thing happening where they just want to be like a little kid for forever and they won't grow up and, like buckle down to the realities of life. So they can be a little bit childish in a different way than Aries. It's kind of like they just don't want to take things seriously. They want to be free to... It's almost even just they change their mind so much that they can't just stay focused on one path. Gemini in love. Geminis like things to be fresh, light, bubbly, like I've said, they're little butterflies flittering about from flower to flower. In love, they enjoy conversation. They have to have conversation. They have to have communication, whether it is verbal, whether it is written through text or letters, or sharing music with each other, or sharing poetry or things that have been read. They are always like talking to someone. True Gemini is quite talkative and social, and sometimes in romantic relationships, because they have this sweetness to them and this lightness and easiness, when they really fall in love with someone, they're not quite sure what to do with these feelings. It's kind of like, oh, geez, like it's bringing them, they're usually up in their headspace or this throat chakra area, right? This is where they operate. And it brings them down into the part of the body where there are no words. They can't put words on the feelings they're feeling. And that is really uncomfortable for someone who is used to and excels at putting words to things. So many times they run from commitment because they don't know what to do with it. They're like, what is this thing, okay? So in love, Geminis many times have a harder time with people who are perhaps more watery or more feelers, this kind of thing. They like to keep things light. And again, look at the other signs in the chart. Look at where that sun is placed to give you an indicator. If you've got someone who's got multiple planets and air signs, then that's what we're talking about. Gemini's expectations in love. So they need space, but they also need a lot of conversation and repartee and connection, which is a funny little thing, right? They just need space to know they can go and like wander off and do their little thing and then come back. They've learned some new things and you've got to learn some new things. You have new stuff to talk about, new things to enjoy together, okay? They like jokes. They have like a little naughty sense of humor. They love playing together. They don't like emotional mind games. They do not like passive aggression. The water signs rule that realm, okay? The water signs are like professional at passive aggression and emotional manipulation. Geminis are just going to be like, what are you doing? That doesn't work for me. And then they'll just flit off somewhere else, okay? You can't tie them down. If you try to tie them down, you are fighting a losing battle. So, okay. Also, they don't like feeling a sense that their partner's leaning on them for their emotional validation. You know, Gemini, they need a partner who is strong on their own, who, you know, doesn't need to be validated by them. You can't be clingy with a Gemini. That doesn't work for them. So Gemini's biggest fear. Now, because we have someone who is quite flighty, and they can be shallow at times, or they can appear shallow. It's just because they're interested in so many things. They're going a million miles a minute, and they got so much stuff going on in their head, and they, you know, going all these different directions, and they have this genius to them, you know, this Gemini Mercury quickness and quicksilver thing happening. They're afraid that maybe they really don't have the emotional depth, okay? A lot of times Geminis have been accused by loved ones in their lives that you know, can't you take this seriously? Why can't you commit to me? You know, these kinds of things. And the Gemini, this is an issue for them, it's something that they really worry about because, as I said earlier, that heart space is not their natural habitat, okay? They are cerebral and they are, you know, throat chakra, they're communicators. Heart stuff, intuition, this does not have words. So unless that Gemini has some strong placements in their chart that they need some water placements or even some fire, which will bring them down into their body at least, or earth, you know, this is going to be a fear of theirs. They're going to worry that they don't have emotional depth. So don't ever accuse them of being shallow, right? See them and meet them where they're at and help them put words to their feelings. Help them put words to the things that they can't voice, okay? That's how you can help them overcome this fear and help them to grow. Virgo Sun. Virgo are people born between August 23rd and September 22nd. So this is around the time of the fall equinox. You know, moving into Libra, you've got right after the fall equinox. Now with Virgo, Virgos are our devoted, earthy sun signs. So Virgo's ruled by Mercury. That's our planet, the little planet Mercury that you know, orbits around the sun in about 88 days to create 1 year for Mercury. This gives our Virgos and our Geminis a quickness of mind or a nervousness. It plays out a little bit differently in Gemini and Virgo. In Virgo, through Earth, through this mutable Earth, you see an individual who is analytical. They appreciate categorizing things. They appreciate doing things a particular way. They like systems, planning, analyzing, etc. That's quite Virgo. Virgo is kind of misunderstood too. The symbol is the Virgin, and to me I like to think of the Vestal Virgins and this idea of this sacred purity, and you can see that applied metaphorically in the way that they mentally process things. They're seeking for a perfect system, a perfect order and way of doing things. My puppy's crazy, he's playing with the stuff. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So they are seeking this idealistic version of whatever it is they're interested in, whether it's from something as simple as organizing a toolbox to a Virgo who's interested in astrology, for example, who likes to learn about the categorizing. There are a lot of Virgo astrologers or astrologers who have a touch of Virgo on perhaps their Mercury. It's that interest in understanding how a system or a language or symbols, how these things all work and how they explain a deeper process or a deeper, more complex system. So a high-functioning Virgo, you've got someone who is helpful, they're dependable. They many times operate in a, Virgo energy is an introverted expression of energy, okay? So many times they're comfortable in a role where they're serving someone else, whether it's through being an assistant or whether it's through perhaps just being in the background, or in a career where they're in a role where they're observing and analyzing from the sidelines. Now in relationships, this can come out sometimes, we'll talk about this in the low-functioning part, but it can come out as criticism. They can be critical, but on the high side, back to the high side, they're devoted. You've got authentic, genuine people. You've got someone who's got a good eye for detail. They're good at again, analyzing something, breaking it down, making it kind of make logical sense. They like to be in the world of the here and now. There's a practicality and a sensibility to Virgo where you know, they appreciate showing up to appointments on time. They appreciate, you know, sort of doing their duty, like doing the things that they say they'll do. There can be kind of a Boy Scoutish vibe to a male Virgo. I know quite a few actually that have kind of that like do-gooder vibe to them. They've got, like I said, this dutifulness, and there's a responsibility there. And they don't have as much of a need for the ego. It's not a direct, they're not going to be directly motivated for ego strokes. So much as they're going to do things out of a place of it's just like the right thing to do, and they can't not do it that way. And they will appreciate someone who gives them ego strokes. Look at their moon too. You got anything fiery on the moon or earthy, you know, they're going to be someone who really would like to get some little pats back. Now, also Virgo is also quite hardworking. Kind of goes to being dutiful and responsible, but the sixth house, which is the Virgo house, has to do with our daily habits and sort of consistent patterns and the in and out of the minutia of life. And so Virgo is comfortable in the role of taking care of business, you know, getting things done that maybe other people don't want to take care of. On the low side, so low functioning Virgo, you'll have someone that can be overly critical. I know quite a few Virgo females, and this is not, by the way, these are people that are some of my favorite people in the world, right? But they can be, Virgo females in particular can be kind of pessimistic because there's a realism there where they can sort of see it, and they've seen the patterns, they've seen people's behavior, and they've seen what happens when this happens, you know? They kind of get like to this place where they become a little disillusioned because a Virgo, they'll show up, they do the stuff that it is that they say that they're going to do, right? They come on time, they, you know, keep their appointments, they go run to the grocery store and don't forget to pick up the ice for you, you know, that kind of thing. That's Virgo. So when you don't show up, or when the world in general kind of, they get screwed sometimes, like we all do, they become a little disheartened and disillusioned by the whole thing. So they can be a little pessimistic and a little anxious as well. Anxiety is a big thing for anyone who has strong Virgo. I have a Virgo Mercury and Virgo Venus in the first house, and I know anxiety. It's because it's like they run at a higher speed than a lot of other people, even mentally, because this is Mercury, which to me is a mercurial a planet. It has to do with the mind. There is a nervousness. A lot of, like, if I was to think of the stereotypical Virgo, they would be quite thin because they're busy, and there's a nervousness there, and there's a anxiousness that's there. So sometimes can have issues of insomnia, things like that. They have high standards. Now, Virgos are idealistic, just like Pisces. To me, this is like this axis of service, and it's this idealistic, value-driven axis. So they appreciate sort of, they have a hierarchy in their mind of how things should sort of operate. And so they'll appreciate when they'll want things to be up here. And they'll also kind of realize that to have things up here is going to be really difficult. Like, they know that they're perfectionists. There's quite a realistic, that's almost, I think, their strength and their weakness, right? Like, they can really see themselves a lot of times. They can see all their shit. And so they sort of feel bothered by that because they're not reaching, they personally aren't able to hit their own, you know, standard of what they think is ideal. And so they can project it onto other people or relationships, or just assume everyone else is, we're all a bunch of screw-ups as well, kind of thing. So they also can be martyrs sometimes. You know, you got this with both Pisces and Virgo, this axis. Anyone who has these zodiac signs strongly noted in their chart. Because, again, it's this ability to give and give and give and give, because it's kind of just, they operate better in the place of taking care of something else behind the scenes, taking care of someone else's problem and fixing it, rather than maybe receiving care from someone, like someone taking care of them, that will make them a little uncomfortable, because that means that they're failing at whatever it is that that person has to take care of for them. Remember, they're Virgo and they want to do things to this level. It's like an ideal, and that means that they're not. So they're like, oh, I'm a big loser because you're taking care of me. This is really uncomfortable for me. Even like gift giving, a lot of times Virgos are, I mean, again, look at their moon, all the other thing, they're Venus, but a lot of times gift giving, receiving gifts can be a little awkward for Virgo, or they can be someone that you're like, I'm not really sure what to get for that person exactly, you know, but ultimately they'll enjoy it. So gifts, but okay. Now, Virgo in love. So because you've got a person who has these, you know, pretty high standards, this applies to their love life as well. And when they fell in love, they have thoroughly sort of analyzed the partner first. Now, I've got a friend who has has an Aries moon, and she's a Virgo, and she's quite spontaneous in love. And you know, she's married now, but when she's dating, she's the kind of person who's very fun and would very much that Aries moon, independent spirit, want to do what she wanted to do. But then after she was sort of seeing someone, then her Virgo analytical nature would kind of set in, and she would sort of analyze things and look at them from, you know, both sides and be like, you know, like this doesn't feel right, or this, you know, so sort of after the fact, it was like this Virgo in hindsight, rearview mirror Virgo thing happening. But, you know, they have this idealistic thing that they're looking for. A hard thing for an idealist is you might have to just come to the realization that there really isn't an ideal. I mean, there is in your head, but as soon as you make something move from the mental space to the physical space in the form of another human, good luck. Like, you know, it's going to be a daily for Virgo. It's got to be a daily recommitment to this other human being, and that recognizing that they're, you know, that they're not going to meet the Virgo standards, just as the Virgo doesn't meet their own standards, and that's okay. So sometimes Virgo with this, they can be the high standards. They can also, though, it's really interesting, they have high standards, but then they'll also kind of stick around. So they can be a little sort of passive aggressive or codependent even. I mean, I use those terms very cautiously. I don't mean that Virgos are codependent or that Virgos are passive aggressive. I'm saying think of what that sort of looks like when someone's codependent, when they want to support another person or take care of someone else's needs and keep another person sort of in a place of like addiction or like in a place of weakness so they feel needed. That can happen with Virgo, okay? And so you can sometimes see Virgo Pisces types get with like these narcissistic types, which would be more your Arian, Capricorn, Leo-ish type individuals, okay? You have got this devoted partner. The Virgo in love is devoted. Their devotion just, you know, it's not the Piscean devotion, which would be this merging spiritual oneness thing. It is more like the Vestal Virgin, you know, worshiping the object of their love. They are sacrificing their carnal desires, you know, to perhaps be with other people, to devote themselves to the one they love. Okay, so think of it as almost a religious experience, because the Virgo sort of symbolizes, it's the virgin, it's the human here on earth looking up to the divine, and Pisces on the opposite end is just that merge of the divine and the earthly. Okay, so Virgos in love, they need that devotion in their partnership. A lot of times Virgo males will put females up on the pedestal, and you know you're going to fall off, you're going to jump off, or you're going to get pushed off when you're on a pedestal. So being on a pedestal is not comfortable. So Virgo men, don't do that. There's a certain level of devotion that should happen. And you know, when I say devotion, it's like this religious devotion. There's a certain amount that should happen in any relationship, but it should go in both directions, okay? Okay. Oh, and also, so the thing with Virgo is they are looking for the one. You know, this is again sort of this religious experience in a sense. It's this worship of the partner in a sense. So once they found that person, they're quite loyal, and they don't have a desire to stray off. They want to be, you know, with their partner. So they're loyal, devoted, and okay, edit all that. Blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, Virgo expectations in love. So here you go. Here's the problem. You got someone who has high standards in love. They have high standards for themselves, but also for their love match, their partnership, and on their partner themselves. Of course, with that, you're going to be disappointed because people are losers sometimes, right? We are all assholes at times. We all do things contrary to how we would like to do them or how we intend on doing them. We don't show up, or we just let our partner down. So Virgos get disappointed at times. So their expectations in love are kind of, in a sense, it's funny. It's like they sort of have these high standards, these ideals, but they like no, because they're so practical. They're so damn practical. They're like, you're not going to be able to meet my ideal, my standards. So it's kind of, you can almost turn into like a pessimism, like, oh well, I mean, it's not going to be what I want it to be, and so they can just not go all the way in even sometimes, or hold back and still hold on to this little idea, this ideal love that exists somewhere out there in the ethers that they'll never get to, right? Because also when they do really love you and they have that devotion to their partner, they get disappointed. They're let down many times by their partner, right? They realize, I love you fiercely, but you might not be able to do it in return, okay? And so self-sacrifice, if you can do things for them where you're sacrificing something that matters to you for the Virgo partner, that will be something that really means a lot to them. Showing up for them, showing up, being a backbone, being like a strong, united force. They do want to look up to their partner. And if you let them down, they sort of become disillusioned and they lose a little bit of respect for you. So you have to, show up for them as best you can. And a Virgo will give you this sense that you want to be a better person. You want to be in a better place than you are right now. You want to live up to these standards that are actually really quite beautiful. They're ideals of what true blossoming, divine, romantic love looks like. Virgo's biggest fear. So yeah, Virgo, if we're thinking of this archetype of the Virgin, I always think of sort of this religious Virgin. It makes me think of nuns or the Vestal Virgins, whatever. That means the partner is God. The partner is divinity. It's the divine. Virgo is learning how to access the divine or the oneness, the same oneness that Pisces is all about on the opposite end. But they're learning how to do it from this place of object, subject, or like this place of they are this worshiper and the partner is the divinity. Now, this is you need to think about this in kind of a big abstract way, okay? But they'll serve the partner. They'll defer to the partner's needs many times, Virgo, especially Virgo females. But at the same time, their worry, their fear is that their partner won't be able to love them in return in the same way. So, you can have a dark Virgo, someone who is pretending to worship the partner and very charming and saying all the right things, but on the inside is not really going all the way in because they've lost kind of hope that anyone else can match where they're going to go anyway. So what difference does it make? So that can happen. So keep that Virgo feeling like they are your beautiful ideal of what love is, and that their devotion does not go unnoticed, and that you shine your light on them, so to speak. Gemini Virgo, specific areas of harmony for these two. Like I said, you've got two people ruled by Mercury. So this world of ideas and categorizing things and naming things will be something that they have in common with one another. They're both going to be two people who are probably pretty analytical and good at critiquing something and noticing when things are out of place. That makes sense for both Gemini and Virgo. They're going to be different in their approach to how they sort of respond to that, though. Gemini likes to talk about it and likes to sort of think about all the possible ways to either fix the problem or, they don't want to get too heavily bogged down in the details. Whereas Virgo loves the details, and Virgo wants to sit and critique it and analyze it and will overanalyze things, even to the point that the Gemini is just like, okay, enough. Virgo has more of an emotional response to situations, to crises, than Gemini typically, and is going to sort of focus a lot of attention on. That's why they're known for being kind of perfectionists or over analyzing things. It's like they sort of will ruminate on things and worry about them and go over them over and over again in their mind. And the Gemini won't understand that, and while Gemini is also kind of a busy, nervous energy, they're more the types to go off and talk to somebody about it and kind of get it off their chest, and then they're off to the next thing. Whereas the Virgo, being that fixed energy, they're going to focus on it more and worry about it and ruminate over it and be stuck in it a little bit more so than the Gemini. So that's a conflict. specific areas of harmony, these two will move at a quick pace. Even if you're somebody, Virgo's more earthy, but there's a quickness to both Gemini and Virgo. There is an ability to analyze things. They're ruled by Mercury, the planet, which now orbits the sun in 88 days, much quicker than our earthly orbit of 365 days. So relative to us, it's very quick. So people who have a lot of strong Mercury in their chart, or who have a sun or moon that's in a sign, such as Virgo or Gemini, ruled by Mercury, are going to have this quicker pace to the way that they think, the way that they process things, their minds in general. They kind of are going, going, going. That's why you see anxiety and worry and these sorts of things kind of tied into Gemini and Virgo. You also tend to see people. Now, you got to look at their whole chart, their ascendant, and you got to look at their chart ruler and all these other things to see what they really look like. But if you've got someone who's got a strong Gemini, strong Virgo in their chart, they will even be slender. They have a skinniness to them because their bodies are just going, going, going. Their nervous system and their metabolism is sort of on high speed. So the way that this plays out when it comes to compatibility is, they're both two people who will be quick on the draw, quick to have, the conversations. The Gemini is going to be a little bit more probably the one to instigate conversations, I would imagine, if there's a mutual attraction there. And the Virgo is going to be the one who will sort of sit and listen and receive the information, analyze it, and then come back with their thoughts, okay? Because they're an earth sign, so it's a little slower than the Gemini, the air sign. The air sign, the Gemini, is going to sort of say things without really meaning much behind them, just kind of saying them to say them. The Virgo is going to be a little more reticent about doing that and will typically say what they actually think. There's more of an authenticity to Virgo than there is to Gemini. Gemini is quite flirtatious, and it's also flirtatious with ideas. They like to just kind of put stuff out there. So that could be a little bit of conflict there because you've got Virgo is quite authentic and Gemini who can say things but not really mean them. So that's a bit of a difference between the two. Overall, the way that people will look at this couple, as I'm thinking of them in my head, I'm thinking, for whatever reason, of a Gemini male and a Virgo female. That particular pairing, the Virgo female may feel like she's getting taken advantage of. I mean, I can really see her being pretty devoted to the relationship and committed, and him being a little bit of a flirt and all over the place. If it's the other way around, if we've got a Virgo male and a Gemini female, it could be sort of the reverse. Virgo is on the axis of service and can get taken advantage of. They're very much about, just like Pisces, caring for the partner, deferring to the partner, and Gemini will take that from this place of because they're so playful and sort of like a sibling, like what's yours is mine. They'll just take that devotion from the Virgo and run with it without really, like committing back in the way that the Virgo is committing. So you do have one person who's a little bit less committed than the other. That would be the Gemini. So people might see this and think that the Virgo is getting a little bit taken advantage of in this situation.